And joining me now is David Hawkins. He's the editor of the Fulcrum here in Washington, D.C. And David, last week we heard that the next G-7 summit taking place in the United States would be held at Trump's own property in Doral. Now it's not. What happened there?
So it was interesting, right? This was a short-lived idea of the president's. His own chief of staff, Mick Mulvaney, said, look, the president ultimately views himself as in the hospitality business. So when it was in the United States' turn to host the biggest economic summit in the world next June, the leaders of the 7 biggest economies in the world, the president said, hey, what better place than my own place? He takes pride in his own golf clubs. Now, that put him in seemingly some conflict with a part of the Constitution which has the fancy name Emoluments Clause, but really boils down to a clause in the Constitution that says presidents are not supposed to profit by being president. They're certainly not supposed to profit by taking money from foreign governments. The president said, well, we could do this at cost, so I don't violate the Emoluments Clause. But nonetheless, the criticism of this was not just from Democrats, it was from Republicans as well.
And the president, of course, and now infamously, did not divest from his business holdings when he became president. And this is just kind of the latest chapter in a number of these conflicts of interest, which are really in a gray area legally.
Sure is in a gray area. So you're right, the president has spent almost something like approaching 1/3 of his days as president he's spent away from the White House at another Trump property. Either he's gone golfing at the golf resort in Virginia, he goes to Mar-a-Lago plenty. The government has to pay the bill, if not for him and for his Secret Service entourage and for all the staff that go with this. So this has created, a lot of antagonism with Democrats. Democrats have been investigating this. The Trump Hotel right across the street from the FBI headquarters, questions about his use of that and foreign governments' use of that. So this has been an issue for the president right from the start. Usually it's been Democrats taking the lead in the criticism. This time Republicans, moderate Republicans, were part of the group that were saying this is one step beyond.
Yeah, and like everything that happens in Washington these days, this also played into the impeachment saga that we're seeing playing out. What role did that play in all this?
So when I say the Republicans who have, as we all know, have been a pretty high wall of support for the president on almost everything, the issues that they're being asked to defend the president on are kind of piling up.
Yeah.
The issue with Ukraine, now the issue with Syria. So essentially, plenty of Republicans went to the White House over the past weekend and said, look, this is, we don't have room on our card to defend the president on this on top of everything else. Maybe it's legal, maybe it's not, but it's an awful optics. Please change your mind. The president, who very rarely likes to be seen as changing his mind in public, was persuaded just this one time that it's in his business's best interest, I guess, in the long run. Being in the hospitality business, sometimes you have to decide not to play the host.
Right, and that decision came via tweet, like so many of them do these days. David, thank you so much for breaking it down for us. For more stories like these, you can check out The Fulcrum at thefulcrum.us.